Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hypergamous Journey. My name is Denise. At this channel, we talk about dating for mature women 55 and older from a hypergamous perspective. I give my reviews on my dates, dating dating apps or dating sites. I just share my experiences with you as I maneuver and go about dating hypergamously. I told you in one of my videos that I met a Nigerian man on Silver Singles, and we went on 3 dates, and we known each other for 30 days. And 1 week he was in a northern city visiting his children. And so the day before Labor Day, we went on a date, and I told you that he sent me like 3 very long text messages, basically, blessing me out. And the funniest thing is that the day I left him and we say our goodbyes, he said, "I love you." And I just smiled, and I think I hugged him goodbye and went on my way. And said, "Oh, that's nice," or something like that I said. But of course I didn't return it. And then 12 hours later, he was sending me the next morning these scathing text messages. And so when I got the first text message, which was 9:30 Labor Day, Monday, September 5th, I read it and I called him, and he didn't answer. And then that was 9:30 in the morning. And then at 2:30, he sent me another very long text message, a little nastier. He never cursed or anything, but he accused me of some very negative things, being secretive, sleazy, and manipulative and stuff. All because I wouldn't tell him my last name, where I lived, like the exact address. And what else wouldn't I tell him? Like, I told him the city where I lived. I told him I lived alone. I told him that, I'm a homeowner. I told him even the name of where I worked. But that wasn't good enough. I don't know what he wanted me to do, talk about my childhood and, what my weaknesses are. I guess that's what he wanted. And, we tell men that, especially when they say they love us. But anyway, I wasn't doing any of that. So then he sent me, 2 more very negative. It got negative, more and more progressively negative, each text message. So anyway, the second text message, he said that he received, he see that he missed my call, but he wants me to do a rebuttal, and rebuttal was in all caps, rebuttal by text. So I wasn't about to rebut 3 very long text messages by text. So I decided to handwrite my response and take a picture and send it to him. So that's what I did. He acknowledged receiving it, and I acknowledged that he received it. You know how you do that like emoji? And that's been it. So that's been a week ago. Well, actually, the 5th. That was last Monday, and now this is this Monday. So it's been a week. So I don't expect to hear from him again. But I did promise you that I would give you, talk about my response. So like I said, I gave him a handwritten response. And I'm just going to, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but just pull out the points. And the first text message went, by, number 1, this, number 2, that, number 3, this, number 4, that. And so I responded in kind. So, I asked him if he dated Nigerian women. So he said that didn't sit well with him, to use his exact words. That didn't sit well with me and brought up some red flags for him. So my number 1 response is that I apologize, and I live in America, and based on my experiences in America, I don't ascribe to one group of people, being, or one culture being better than another. I just don't. I think there's enough for us to have all kinds of, ideas about everything, as long as it's not, you're not killing anybody because of it. As a Black woman in America, I feel like I don't have anything against people who are, have a different sexual orientation, the transgender, and all of this. And I'm not going to go into all of that. I don't have anything against it, because it's all about what you feel inside, right? So, more power to him. But I apologize if I made him feel a certain kind of way. So that was my number one. Number two, he talked about, I don't like to call, I don't like to talk on the phone, and I don't like to text. Well, I told him that's a difference of opinion, because if he called me and I was available, I picked up. So we talked. And if he left a message or I saw that he called, I called him back. I told him in the beginning, I'm not a big texter. So he was sending me text messages of, the Psychology Today articles talking about relationships, which we weren't even in because we didn't have a discussion about it. And, biblical things he was sending me. I told him I was spiritual. I didn't say I was biblical. I said I'm spiritual. I didn't say I was religious. There's difference. I don't really care about Bible quotes. People send them to me. I'll read them and I'll marinate in it and resonate. If it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Because spirituality is an individual journey. But he knows that he can get some women, wheel them in by talking about Bible verses and quotes and stuff like that. I don't live like Bible verse. I just know the 23rd Psalm. That's about all I know where that is, and I can repeat it and recite it. Any other verses, I just don't know. And I really don't care, because it's like I need to live it. I need to live the Bible or these principles. So anyway. So he complained about that, and I told him, I do return your calls. I'm not a big texter, but this is a difference of opinion. The third point, he said that I gave him a 9:00 deadline, and that doesn't work for him. And I said, well, I understand, but it works for me. And he asked me how late, what's a good time to call? I tell them all before 9:00, because after that, I'm winding down. I want to go to bed. I don't want to sit on the phone with you for an hour talking about nothing. And I feel anything later than that is a booty call, because the later it is when you're talking to men, the more your, how can I say this? Your perception, the way you view things, what you're saying, you're losing it, because it's getting later and later at night when you need to be winding down. That's why they say don't make important decisions late at night. They say do it in the morning, because most humans are at their best in the morning. Most, unless you have a third shift job and you've been doing it for 30 years. So that's your morning. But if you have a regular 9-to-5 job, so I don't want to talk to men, late at night. My decision-making skills and reasoning skills are reduced. So I want to give him my full attention, and anybody else I'm talking to, whether it's a man or a woman, a friend, family. I don't want to talk past 9, honestly. Then the next one, he said something about he feels like I was using him as a bank tool. So I told him, I said, I've never asked you for money, so I'm not really sure where that's coming from. So then we had a different opinion on, he asked me, I think I said this in a video, he asked me to pay for my ticket to go to this event. And I told him it wasn't in my budget. And honestly, it wasn't. But I also felt like this was a test. He did say he would Zelle it back to me or Cash App it back to me. And I'm thinking, well, if he's asking me to buy the ticket, then maybe he can't afford the ticket. So and it was an event that he asked me, what do you want to do this weekend? And I told him the event. And then he asked me to pay for the ticket. And I can't remember if he said ticket 1 or tickets 2. So I said it was in my budget, and I said, well, why don't you pick the activity for us to do? So he picked going to the park and getting something to eat afterwards. I was fine with that. That was our last date. So then he said that I didn't care about his budget, and he didn't believe that it would upset my budget. And so I said to him again, it would upset my budget. It wasn't in my budget. And I said, men budget for dates, always have and always will. If a man doesn't want to pay for the date, he's not my man. But to be honest with you, ladies, I've never been on a date where a man refused to pay. I just never did. Even when I was in my 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, I have never experienced that. What I have experienced is a man joking. It's like, oh, you gonna help pay for that? And I just smile and look at him. I don't say anything, and I don't reach for my purse or none of that. So they already know when they're taking me out that they're going to pay. So I don't know. So I said, men budget for dates, always have and always will. And so for number 6, I said, I like you and I would like to continue dating you. I've told you where I live. I live alone. I'm a homeowner. I told you where I've worked. I've asked you to call me before 9 o'clock. And I also said again, because it was mentioned again in another point, men have budgets to date women. I'm not being unreasonable. Then my 8th point was, it's been 30 days and 3 dates. He said that I was concerned about my budget, but I wasn't concerned about his budget. And then he began to list out how much he spent on the 3 dates. And then he said, well, I have a budget too. Instead of going out, we can cook. And if we don't know how, he said we, and if we don't know how to cook, we can go to YouTube and the internet to find recipes to cook. And I said that I don't cook for men. I'm getting to know. That's a wifely duty and responsibility. I stopped cooking for men, I don't know. What my grandma told me. I was in my 20s. My grandma said, Niecy, don't start anything you can't finish. If you don't like to cook, don't start. And these dudes were just my boyfriends, and I was in my 20s when my grandma said that to me. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And from that point on, only if I was in a committed relationship did I cook. Not often, because I'm not a good cook. I'm willing to learn. I've gotten better. But only if I'm in a relationship. And I'm certainly not going to cook for a man that I just met 30 days ago. I'm just not going to do that. As we go down the line, I can and I will. But not when I just met them. Then he said, we haven't had any intellectual, and he had that in all caps, we haven't had any intellectual conversations. And we were supposed to have a conversation about calling and boundaries and stuff like that. And he said, I never mentioned it. And I said, well, honestly, I forgot about that conversation. But since you didn't forget, you could have initiated the conversation around boundaries instead of waiting for me. And he also could have initiated, which I said, the conversation, the intellectual conversation that you wanted to have. And, everybody's definition of what's intellectual is different. If you are a college professor and you've done research in certain things, then you have that kind of intellectual conversation. If you have experience in finances, then you have that kind of intellectual conversation. I don't know what kind of intellectual conversation he wanted us to have. Whatever it is, he didn't initiate it if he was looking for it. So anyway, I go on to say, I appreciate the goodwill that he extended to me by revealing his salary, where he worked, his home address, but it's not a good idea for me to reciprocate. It's just not. And then he talked about wealth accumulation and spending and 50-50. And I told him I was not going to be having these discussions with him at the 30-day mark. It's only been 30 days. We're still getting to know each other. And we are not in a relationship. We are dating. There is a difference. Then, he sent me the Psychology Today article that mentions giving your partner the benefit of doubt. That was the title of it. And I told him in the Psychology Today article, it repeatedly mentions, quote, partner and quote, relationship. And we are neither right now. As we move forward, or if we move forward, we can revisit these topics about wealth accumulation, 50-50, spending, how much I make. He put that in there too. So finally, I end my response with this. I'm responding in writing because you asked me to. In the future, these discussions should be had in person or over the phone, but preferably in person because you can see the person's body language, and you can look at it and hear their tone, voice inflection, because you need to look at all of that with these kinds of discussions of relationships and stuff like that. And text messages can be easily misunderstood. And then my last thing was, again, thank you for sharing your thoughts and feelings, which I said in the very beginning. Thank you for sharing. You have every right to your thoughts and feelings. And then I proceeded to go point by point. So that was my response. This video is 17 minutes long, the longest I've ever done on YouTube. But that was my response to him. And I haven't heard from him. I don't really expect to. But it just lets me know that, the love thing he was just saying, which I already knew, but this the text messages he sent me was concrete, hard proof that he was just talking and he didn't love me. He was just in lust with me. And that men who love, they don't do this kind of crap. They talk it out. If they're really into you, ladies, they're going to have that relationship discussion about moving forward, getting serious with you, wanting you to see only them and they want to only see you. It's a discussion that has, and especially at this damn age, at this age, we have discussions about things. If you like this video or any of my others, please subscribe, share, and click on the notification bell so that you can be aware of my new videos. Thank you for watching. Bye.